Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to a very special edition of the 51%. This week we're in a rather cold New York City where more than 8,000 people have turned up to attend the UN Women's Summit. They're marking the 20th anniversary of a landmark gathering in Beijing where 189 countries agreed to roll out a series of global initiatives designed to empower women. So we're asking, just how far have we come since 1995? According to the UN, progress in the last 20 years has been slow and patchy. We take stock of what's been achieved and what hasn't. Also, we talked to Hollywood actor Geena Davis, who's making it her life mission to see more women in the lead, both on and off screen. And when 8 out of 10 parliamentarians across the world are still men, this meeting is looking at how to boost the numbers when it comes to women in politics. So we took to the streets and asked people, what does it mean to be a woman in 2015?
Being a woman in 2015 means being responsible for your actions, being in charge of your life and fighting constantly.
I can do what I want. It's pretty amazing, but also there's so many things that are still hurting women today and men because of lack of equality. And I think that violence against women is the big thing that we really need to address right now.
What's important is fighting against violence based on gender, the participation of women in politics and in decision-making, but also the financial independence of women.
Freedom, struggle, hard work.
Being a woman today means having to fight the same fights our mothers and grandmothers took on, except they're hidden.
It's not every day the UN headquarters here in New York see so many women. And many of these conference delegates are celebrating the fact that life has indeed changed since 1995. For instance, more women than ever are now participating in the workforce, and we're seeing more girls sitting in classrooms. But we still have a long way to go yet. According to the UN, a child born today will have to wait until she or he is 80 years old before they see gender equality in economic participation.
Hoisting its flag in Beijing, the UN was preparing for a landmark conference on women, the largest it had ever organised. 189 countries and 40,000 participants, all keen to improve the situation of women across the globe.
If there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights once and for all.
A platform for action was drawn up, a blueprint for women's empowerment, with 12 aims for the 2 decades that were to follow. It included equal access to education, fighting poverty, and preventing violence against women. 20 years on, the UN's official for women says the results are mixed.
We have seen some progress, very uneven and very slow. In education, for instance, most countries made tremendous progress, and we saw lots of institutions that countries created to address gender equality, but implementation has not been as good as the laws.
As for violence against women, the UN says 1 in 3 females are still likely to face physical or sexual abuse.
It is more dangerous in some countries to be a woman than to be a soldier when there is a conflict, because the conflict targets women to humiliate them, to rape them, to kill them, and that is why the majority of people who suffer when there is a conflict or a disaster, it's women.
Back in 1995, governments pledged to achieve gender equality by 2005. No country has succeeded yet. Now the UN says it wants to reach 50-50 parity by 2030, a goal which will still need to see a rapid pace of reform if it's to be met.
She appeared in that seminal film Thelma and Louise. She's been nominated for an Academy Award. She's even won a Golden Globe for her work. She also went on to portray the first female president of the United States in an American television series, Commander-in-Chief. And in her spare time, Hollywood actor and producer Geena Davis has established an Institute for Gender in Media, and she joins me here today. Geena, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, I understand you were watching television at home one day with your young daughter and you were appalled at the fact that there were so few female roles. It's one thing to be appalled, it's another thing to actually go out and establish an institute.
Right. And I didn't intend to do all that in the beginning, but I did. As you said, I noticed right away that there seemed to be so few female characters and what's, made for little kids. But when I started mentioning it around town, I'm in the industry, so if I'm meeting with a producer or director or studio executive, I would say, hey, have you ever noticed how few female characters there are in G and PG movies? Every single person said, no, that's not true anymore, that's been fixed. And I was thinking, that's not what I see. So that led me down the whole road of getting research on the subject and then, making it sort of my second profession.
So what does it mean for a society when there is an absence of women on screen?
When the female characters are hypersexualized or very narrowly stereotyped or not an important part of the plot or simply not there at all, the message is, which goes in unconsciously of course, that women and girls are less important than men and boys, that they don't take up half of the space in the world, right? And kids consume media so much, more than anything else except sleeping. So this relentless viewing is pounding into their brains the idea, frankly, that girls are second-class citizens, and boys and girls take in this unconscious message. So it's very damaging to our society and very hampering to the progress that we want to make as far as empowering women and girls, getting more women in elected office, more women in the C-suites and positions of authority.
What's been the response from Hollywood to the Institute?
Gratifyingly, their response has been incredibly positive. They are stunned by the research because, as I said, they really thought the problem had been addressed, and when they realize how few female characters they're showing in their movies, they're appalled, especially since it applies to what kids see. So we've had a tremendous response, and we're starting to see movies and TV come out that we know that we've impacted.
Now, women do get a raw deal in Hollywood, don't they? There's lesser roles to begin with, but as they get older, it becomes even more of a problem. How do you change that?
I wish I could in time to help me. Maybe I'll just do this nobly for future generations. But it really is true that idea that the older you get, the fewer parts there are. It really happens to be true. The numbers show that. And I think part of the reason is that the default character is so often male, that they make characters female when there's a reason she needs to be female. But if it's the general or the boss or the doctor or whoever, it doesn't occur to people, oh, well, that could just as easily be a woman as a man. So what I'm encouraging studios to do and creators is think of whether this character could be a woman. Go through your script and change a bunch of first names to female. And now you've added a bunch of female characters. So,
and women are a market force to be reckoned with, aren't they?
It's true. It's true. Movie after movie comes out that's starring women or about women or directed by a woman that's wildly successful, and we're not seeing the momentum building as it should. But the numbers are there. It's been shown now that movies with more female characters in it make more money, less likely to be a big flop. So I think we're ready to turn a corner.
Geena Davis, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
the key themes in this summit is how to boost the number of women political leaders. And nobody embodies that hope more than the woman behind me who's just about to speak. And I'm talking, of course, about Hilary Clinton, who's tipped to run as the Democrat candidate for the White House. So if indeed she does run for presidency and actually succeeds, she'll be joining a very small and elite group of women heads of government or state.
A much anticipated speech from the woman tipped to run for president. Scandals aside, the crowd was keen to hear from someone who's forged her way in international politics.
Deep-seated cultural codes and structural biases continue to hold back the full participation of women and girls and expose them to discrimination and abuse.
Equal representation in decision-making is one area that's seen considerably less progress than others. In January 2015, there were only 10 women filling the role of head of state and 14 as head of government. And at the current pace of progress, there's a long road ahead.
Inequality between men and women has reduced by only 4% during the last 9 years. At this pace, we'll need 82 years to eliminate existing discrimination.
The number of women in parliament has doubled. However, this figure is still very low. Only 22% of MPs around the world are female, ranking highest Rwanda, which boasts the most female MPs in the world. The Nordic countries are also renowned for their progress, with an average of 41.5%. That's compared to just 15.7% in the Pacific region. In France, despite gender parity legislation, Parliament is dominated by a three-quarter majority of male MPs, an environment in which sexist attitudes are still shamelessly aired. Even when women do attain these decision-making roles, there's still the battle of turning around the deeply rooted prejudices they face.
Well, no event of this calibre is, of course, complete without an evening gala, not to mention a red carpet too. That's it for this special edition of the 51%. In the meantime, if you want to give us some feedback on what you've just seen, please head to our Facebook page, that's France24, the 51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. In the meantime, we're going to leave you with some images from tonight's performances. Until our next program, bye for now.